My pronouns are she, her, and I am a white person with short brown curly hair. Today I'm wearing clear framed glasses. I've got gold dangly earrings and a kind of knitted jumper with white and blue abstract pattern on, and I'm sat in front of a bookcase with lots of shelves on the books, books on the shelves. I'm just going to run through some housekeeping for this evening. Just a reminder that this event is being recorded. So if you don't want to be visible, just turn your cameras off. You'll have been muted when you came through. If you can just leave your microphones off just to eliminate any background noise, that would be great. If you have any tech issues during the event, just send me a message in the chat and I'll try and assist you. When the artists are presenting, they're going to have 10 minutes each, and towards the end, just sort of 2 minutes before their 10 minutes is up, they're going to hear a noise like this. So just to let you know that that's what that is. Yeah, I think that's everything housekeeping wise. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Percy now, who's going to do the sort of proper introduction for this evening. You're on mute, Percy.
Thanks, Lydia. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you all. I've got an annoying dog here. I'm going to have to just give him a chew. Hope that will last for 4 minutes. Got to eat that slowly, Peanut. Okay. Just going to read some notes. Yes, it's great to see you all. Thank you for coming to this evening's Meet the Artist event for the Beyond Ruin exhibition, which is just coming to a close at the end of this week. I'm Persephone Pearl. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman with short hair. I'm wearing black and a hat. I've got a plain background. I'm stepping in for my co-director, Amy Ray, who was due to host this event and introduce it, but she's not able to be here this evening, so she sends her apologies. The structure for this evening is, after a short intro to the project from me, you'll hear from 5 of the 7 exhibiting artists. Each is going to speak for about 10 minutes about their practice. There'll be a comfort break after the first 2 talks, and then that's just a 5-minute break, and then we'll have 3 more artists and then questions at the end, so we should be finished by about 7:30. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the project, and then I'll hand back to Lydia to introduce the first artist. This group exhibition, Beyond Ruin, along with a weekend of online events in November, has been ONCA's offering for Lost Species Day 2020. Lost Species Day is a chance each year to explore the stories of extinct and critically endangered species, cultures, ways of life, and ecological communities. Last year's event invited organisers and participants to consider how their work can contribute to the flourishing of the intersectional environmental movement, a movement that identifies that the drivers of ecological harms are the same structures that harm marginalised and vulnerable people of colour across the globe. ONCA used this invitation as an opportunity to reach out to a range of artists working with these themes in the UK and internationally. The exhibition is called Beyond Ruin because each of the works reveals ways of thinking through and beyond the ruins of extractivism, white supremacy, and ecological devastation. We celebrate the artists' voices, the struggles that their works champion, the cosmologies they point to, the experiences they name, the visions they hold, the truths they tell, and the griefs they express. The process of putting the exhibition together began with a shared curatorial research inquiry with local ritualist and textile artist Katie Tume, also known as Mother Eagle, from whom we'll hear in a little while. It emphasised the importance of self-reflection by those in positions of relative power and privilege, such as curators. We wanted to move away from the types of environmental art that depict places or animals without people, art that might foreground global north perspectives at the cost of obscuring the realities of what many people in the global south face today. In the context of social and environmental injustice, we ask questions like, how does this work challenge power structures? Who does it empower, or who might it disempower? Who is the work speaking to? Who might it have forgotten? And what assumptions does it embody? What assumptions has the artist made? And we're really keen to foster continued dialogue around these questions. We see this exhibition as a collaborative resource, building and creating an archive of artists working with environmental concerns and challenging the historically very much white-dominated category of environmental artist. Just wanted to acknowledge that London-based eco-poet Celina Nwulu and Indigenous Brazilian visual artist and activist Denilson Baniwa are not able to attend the event tonight. So we'd really warmly encourage you to find out more about their work and their practice and the projects that they champion in the online exhibition. So I'll hand back to you, Lydia, to introduce the first speaker now.
Great, thanks, Beth. Oh yeah, you're muted, great. So yeah, we start with Felipe Jacome, who is a photographer born in Ecuador. After finishing his studies at the London School of Economics, his work has focused on issues of human mobility and human rights. In 2010, he won the Young Reporter competition of the International Committee of the Red Cross. Jacome's photos have appeared in publications such as National Geographic, The Washington Post, Foreign Policy Magazine, The Guardian, Vice Magazine, and CNN. Jacome's work has been exhibited in Paris, New York, London, Geneva, Amsterdam, Quito, La Paz, and Washington, DC. In 2019, he was selected by World Press Photo for the 6x6 Global Talent Award for South America. He is a Fujifilm ex-creator and is represented by Anastasia Photo Gallery in New York City. So yeah, we'll hand over to you, Felipe. If you could unmute yourself and just give us a visual description before you start your presentation, that would be great.
Alrighty, thank you, Lydia. Hi, everyone. My name is Felipe. My pronoun is he, his. I am a white-looking male with curved, wavy brown hair. And today I'm wearing black framed glasses, a maroon polo, and a blue sweater. And I'm sitting in front of a painting of a mountain landscape. What I thought I would do is to project 2 minutes of a video that will give context to the work and will give context to the presentation that I will do. I have no idea if really the audio, or yeah, that's actually a good question. Will the audio also come across if I'm sharing the screen?
You just need to, when you select screen share, there's a little tick box right on the bottom that says share computer audio. You just need to make sure that that's ticked as well and it will do it.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so I'm sharing, and where is the audio?
When you first click screen share, when it's asking which screen you want to share, it's along the bottom. You just need to tick it. I think it's on the left-hand side. So before you get to the bit where your screen is shared.
Okay. Share computer sound. Okay, there we go. My screen. Yeah.
Yeah, looks good.
El petróleo ecuatoriano es un recurso fundamental. Nos ayudará para resolver los problemas que a la patria aquejan y particularmente al pueblo ecuatoriano.
Between 1964 and 1990, Texaco drilled for oil in the Ecuadorian Amazon, dumped as much as 18.5 billion gallons of highly toxic waste sludge into the rainforest. The waste contaminated the streams and rivers used by local people for drinking, bathing, and fishing.
Un grupo de mujeres de la cuenca del río Bobonaza en Pastaza salieron desde el interior de la selva amazónica hasta Puyo.
Protesters say the Ecuadorian government plans to sell roughly 10 million acres of land in the southeastern Ecuadorian Amazon without proper consent from the local indigenous peoples.
Las compañeras, como viven esa cruda realidad de sus comunidades y ven el eminente peligro de la 11ª ronda, toman la decisión de hacer una marcha.
En defensa de la vida, caminamos con nuestros hijos en defensa de nuestro territorio.
All right, I think I'll stop right there. The video is a bit longer, but I wanted to well, first ask to if the sound came across clearly or not.
Yeah, it was good from what I could hear.
Yeah, I know it was also in Spanish, so I don't know if people could read, but basically some takeaways from the video. I think Ecuador, like a lot of, well, I think I should say that I was born and raised in Ecuador, a small country in South America, and Ecuador, like many countries around the globe and in the global South, have really focused themselves around the exploitation of natural resources. As the video mentioned, in Ecuador, oil was discovered in the Amazon jungle in 1960s, and it is still, 60 years later, it is still the main source of income for the country by a long haul. It's not just this, it's the biggest chunk of the money that comes into the coffers of the government. From speaking to my parents and my grandparents, I guess the country really changed in the 60s and 70s with the discovery of oil. I guess it's really been the basis of what we can call development and progress, quote unquote. And we could, of course, talk for a long time of really what is development and what is progress. In any case, what's been quite clear is that that oil exploitation in Ecuador and this development that we have achieved over the years has come at a great cost, both environmental and human. As you saw in the video as well, the Ecuadorian Amazon is the epicenter of one of, I would think, one of the earliest and one of the largest oil spills and just, widespread oil contamination in such an ecosystem. This was started in the 60s, and I think the practices of the oil companies until the 90s were of constantly dumping oil and sludge and toxic residues into the jungle. This has been, this has been part of a lot of this has been a debate within the country, and it has been part of a large trial against the Chevron Texaco company that is still ongoing. But it's not the government against the oil company, but it's the people who live in the Amazon jungle, in the towns, and in the small villages that are suing Chevron Texaco for billions and billions of dollars. So that's a little bit of the history of it. Then I guess I've always been familiar with, everybody in the country is familiar with the oil exploitation and what it means and what it represents for the country's economy. But I was quite surprised, as I showed in the video in 2013, there was a big march to the country's capital And it was a march that was spearheaded by women, which I thought was quite interesting, and I was quite surprised. It wasn't the first time I saw a march of Indigenous people to the capital, but it really was the first time I saw women spearheading. And so I took my camera and I went to find them, and the first question I asked them is like, why are you marching, and why are you women spearheading this march? Why isn't it just like a general march? And so they said, you know, the indigenous nationalities have been resisting and have been fighting for our rights and our land and our way of life for so long, but ultimately most of our leaders gave in and sold out. But the women don't sell out, because we always have in mind what we will leave behind for our children. And so that was the beginning of a small portrait piece that I want to project right now, called Amazonas, Guardians of Life. And this was a piece, these were a series of portraits that I took of the women from that march. Even though I've been a documentary photographer or a photojournalist for a long time, I felt really that I couldn't make justice to everything they had to say and to their strength just by taking their picture. And so, you know, I took their pictures, I printed them out, I put them on a cardboard of sorts, and you know, we did a small workshop together trying to articulate, you know, why they were marching and why they are fighting. Similarly, the women, and in general the indigenous nationalities from the Amazon, all wear face makeup, particularly in their ceremonies or in the marches, and so I asked them to kind of decorate the contours of their portrait with the same pigments that they use to paint their faces. In the march in 2013, there were women from 8 different indigenous nationalities, most of them all of them speaking different languages, all of them using different dyes to paint their face, different vegetable dyes to paint their face. And so I thought that was quite interesting how that became reflected in the piece, not just their faces, but their language, their words, and also the pigments that they use.
That's great. Thank you so much, Felipe. That was, yeah, really, really interesting. Did you want to stop sharing your screen? And we'll move on to the next artist. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Felipe. The next speaker is Katie Chime. Sorry. Well, Katie Chime is also known as Mother Eagle. She is an artist from West Sussex whose textile portraits of animals explore how a reduction in cultural, social, or spiritual reverence for the natural world has resulted in their vulnerability, endangerment, or extinction. Katie's work examines themes around species loss and decline in the natural world, and seeks to subvert popular narratives around what extinction and ecological threat look like. Recently, this often includes turning a critical lens on systems of colonialism and white supremacy, and investigating how those systems have and still do create cycles of ecological violence that affect human and animal ways of life. Katie often uses religious iconography and mythology in her work to engage the viewer in a dialogue about what people hold sacred and how that has changed. Kate's works, Extinct Icons and Ritual Burials, were exhibited at Onca for Lost Species Day in 2018. And Katie worked closely with Lydia and myself to set up Lost Species Day 2020 at Onca. Over to you, Katie.
Thanks, Paz. Hi, everybody. Yes, hello, my name is Katie. My pronouns are she, her. I am a white woman and I've got short blonde hair, a teal coloured beanie, and I am sitting in my studio. So behind me are my bookcases and framed pictures on the wall. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about my history with Onca and with Remembrance Day for Lost Species, as Percy said. So I think it was 2017 when we first collaborated, and my work funnily has sort of, I feel, matched in a way that evolving thematically, the evolving nature of Remembrance Day for Lost Species. In 2017, the work that I was producing about extinction, my series Extinct Icons, I look back on it now and see it as quite a myopic approach that I had, because I was making work that responded to stories about extinct species, just portraits of those animals, and I didn't examine very closely at all the conditions and structures that had led to that extinction and the ecological destruction and loss around it. But my work has always and continues to examine loss. But now in 2020 and 2021, when Percy and Lydia asked me to collaborate on the curation of last year's exhibition, I had very much started to move more into realizing that stories about conservation are very much more nuanced, and that I wanted to see if I could reflect that in my portraits. And so aligning my intentions with both Onca's theme for 2020 and the theme for Remembrance Day for Lost Species. And the two pieces that were in the window, I'm going to just share my screen now so I can reference them as I speak. This first portrait, this is just a close-up of the portrait called The Emancipator, which depicts a red-headed vulture. And this was the first piece that I did that really was me dipping my toe into sort of looking a bit wider at what was actually going on with some of these critically endangered species in a wider political, socio-political context. And with this particular subject, which is the red-headed vulture, I got interested in this one because of the stories around the funeral customs of the Parsi culture, which is indigenous to where vultures live in continental India. In Parsi culture, fire, earth and water are sacred, and so they're not part of their funerary customs, and instead they center on excarnation. And they believe that to reach heaven, vultures serve as holy intermediaries between earth and sky. So they would place their dead on a tower, and vultures would liberate the soul by consuming the body. But these vultures are now so rare, and in fact all species of vulture are endangered, that the bodies cannot be consumed quickly enough, and their slow decomposition poses a pathological threat to human life, which mean that these ancient holy customs have had to cease. And I found that just a very compelling narrative, digging deeper. The reason that vultures are so endangered is because of the industrialized agriculture around routinely giving antibiotics to cattle, which in India particularly, because the cow is holy, when the animals die, and they're not obviously consumed in India, when the animals die, vultures are able to come in and deal with the body very, very efficiently as a scavenger. But that is just being interrupted, this whole ancient holy culture being interrupted. So this was the first time that I'd really started looking at these different systems and making work that responded to that. And then the other piece that I had in the window exhibition this year was this, which was my most recent piece. And the title of this piece is We Will Suppress You. And this piece depicts an iguana, more just a representation of an iguana, because it's obviously not.
Katie, really sorry to
yes.
interrupt you. Your slide hasn't changed, so we're still seeing the emancipator.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why. Let me.
You might need to exit and then go back into the screen share again with it on the right one. We had this issue with on another event.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing that. Thank you for letting me know. I am. How's that?
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah,
now.
Brilliant. Okay, yes. So this piece is my most recent piece called We Will Suppress You, and depicts an iguana, obviously, as I say, not a realistic depiction of iguana. The story that led me to this subject was from spending time at an artist residency in Costa Rica in January last year. But what sort of clinched the deal for me making it the subject of this portrait to do with the sort of real life encounter that I had. But in Costa Rica, the green iguana is a protected species. And it's illegal to hunt or kill iguana. However, elsewhere in the world, iguana are an invasive species and are so numerous in their non-native ecosystems that they become a huge problem. In fact, they have actually driven other species to extinction because they've disrupted the ecosystem so deeply. But particularly what was interesting about this for me in Costa Rica was that the indigenous population of Costa Rica have a tradition where they eat iguana and they are part of their food culture. However, white-led, European-led animal sanctuaries have sprung up to sort of re-educate the indigenous population around not consuming these animals to save the population, to stabilize the population in Costa Rica. Whereas in the neighboring country of Panama, they are farmed to supply North America's pet trade, and it's through North America's pet trade that hobbyists and pet owners who no longer want to own their iguanas release them into the wild, and then they disrupt the natural southern North American states like Florida, the natural ecosystems there. So I just find this very interesting, and this is, I'm going to stop screen sharing now and go back to me. So I find that very interesting as a subject, and this is kind of more where my work is at the moment, in that these narratives around conservation that we're fed in sort of mainstream media and sort of dominant culture are so, can be so myopic and so misleading. They lack the nuance that's actually required to fully address these systemic oppressions that go on, that are driving climate collapse, ecological destruction, the removal of indigenous rights and lifeways. And I feel very strongly that we all share a responsibility as white folk particularly, to really think a bit more about what it is that we're being told. Because for me, just referring to that specific piece, you know, when you've got indigenous cultures and lifeways that have been in place for hundreds and hundreds of years, it's very convenient to interrupt that, rather than the more difficult, more responsible work of dismantling the wider structures that have actually enabled that to happen, and enabled these ecosystems to become so disrupted to fulfill hobbies of white North Americans. I hear the bell for 2 minutes, so I just will wrap up by saying this is my first experience curating in this way. I've never done any curation before, collaborating with Percy and Lydia for this, of course. It was definitely out of my comfort zone, definitely something that I found quite challenging. I spent about 4 days researching other artists, and I'm absolutely honoured to be amongst the ones that we were able to secure the work for. It's been a really beautiful and growing experience for me, and really also, as a side note, definitely showed me in the challenge of finding artists how biased systems are in terms of searching for environmental art, artists working within climate change, I was only ever seeing white artists and only ever seeing the voices of white artists being represented. There's certainly a bias towards white being the default. So I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to work on this project. So thank you to Onka, Percy, Lydia, and everybody else.
Thank you so much, Katie. We'll take a comfort break now for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we will hear from the remaining 3 speakers. So get a cup of tea and we'll see you at 6:40. Thank you. 2-1. So hopefully we've got most people back. I just wanted to say, for some reason, I'm not able to reply to Harpreet's message, but it's lovely to hear from you and have you here, Harpreet. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate your words and observations and your presence here. We'd love to meet you in person sometime. Okay, are most people back? Can I just have a little, can you give us a little, show us your face or give us a thumbs up or something if you're back? Okay. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Nice to see you. Lovely. Okay, right, well, we'll start again then. I'm going to introduce our next artist. I'll just check that he is here and ready. Deru, are you ready? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to introduce you now. Deru Anding is an artist and an architect who's based in London. He moved there in 1998, having been born and raised among the forest-dwelling Bedoyu tribe in the region of Bau and Kuching in Sarawak in southwest Borneo. Over the past 2 decades, much of Deru's homeland has been destroyed for palm oil plantations, logging and other developments. Deru's huge panoramic drawings exhibited at Onka for Lost Species Day in 2019 evoke the environment and community of his childhood. But the new works that Deru is sharing this year explore future cityscapes in which nature has reclaimed power and all that remains of even the most ambitious architectural feats are vestiges. So welcome, Deru. It's wonderful to have you here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am Deru, pronoun he, him. I have a dark hair. My background is the blind on the window. And originally, as mentioned, I'm originally from Borneo, the Bedoyu tribes. Initially, I came to this country in 1998 and study architecture, now practicing architecture. And you can call me the jungle walker, which I like to be referred to as I'm from the jungle, or from Borneo, the one of the minority tribes, the Dayak tribes in Borneo. But of course, I'd like to thank you for including me on this platform and for everyone involved to support this event. And it is, I'm delighted to be given this opportunity to share my current and ongoing works, which is a drawing series of this project, which it has also reflects my previous project, which Percy mentioned before about the previous exhibition I was involved with Onka. And this current project that I'm sharing here is, I have started on it for some times now and still working on it. It's about the subject of this project on this current drawing that I'm working on is about the the way I see the future, what may happen in the future in the absence of humans. Beyond ruins, after the apocalyptic times or after the judgment day, for whatever reasons, likely due to the ecological collapse, disasters as the consequences of the excessive human activities, or you can say the anthropogenic. And in the aftermath, where nature shall return to reclaim the land, reflourish, reboot on the rubbles of human civilization, where then Mother Earth will perform her miracles to fix what the human did wrong and perhaps to prepare for the next occupants. And to depict that hypothetical belief of the future, I base it on my drawings on the existing buildings, settlements, such as which I have selected some of them. I think Lydia will be showing it. Some of them, like the Raya, based on this existing suburban small city in Syria, which was badly bombarded, ruins during the Arab Springs. And another one is the Battersea Power Station, one of the iconic London landmark, and which I believe I also try to depict how it would look like in the future when the nature claim this iconic architecture with the Art Deco features. Another one is La Sagrada, one of the architecture wonder masterpiece by Antoni Gaudi in Barcelona. And of course, another old city in Italy called Ostini, means the white town because it's made of whitewash. And yeah, this is a part of my drawing series, which I am still working on more to basically to convey how I see the future as a based on the current reality. What with the the environmental issues that we are facing and the environmental issue that we are creating. Yeah, that's it. So I hope that Lydia will be showing some of these. I did a brief, simple animation and some images as well. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Deru. Do you want me to show them in any particular order?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I'll do them one at a time. Okay. Thank you. So that one was...
that was the Battersea. That was one of the iconic buildings in London. It was abandoned derelict for some time, for years, and now has been redeveloped into residential and commercial apartments. Yeah.
Okay, I'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, that was based on the Ostini, one of the ancient city in south coast of Italy. And as you can see, what I'm trying to do there is to depict how that city will be reclaimed by nature, well, in the absence of human, or you can see just the birds and the natural elements.
Sorry, 2 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. That is the La Sagrada Familia by Antonio Gaudi, and based on that building, architecture masterpiece in Barcelona. Yeah, thank you very much. And I hope I have to mention this. A lot of from my Instagram, a lot of my followers like to ask me, why are you being pessimistic about the future? And I said, no, it's not about being pessimistic, but I like to see it. We have to, I only simply drawing it, you can see being prevented from happening. It's not trying to be pessimistic, but there is actually, it's not a theory anymore. It's a fact that will happen. But the only way with this drawing that I'm doing now, if we can prevent it from happening too soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deru. Great. Okay, we are Deru. If you could just mute yourself, that would be great.
Yeah.
It affects the speaker view. Thank you. So we're going to move on to Josephine now, and I'll just introduce Josephine very briefly. So Josephine Chime is an East London-based mixed media artist, transgressing ideas of accepted beauty through the deconstruction of the body. Josephine says, the strong chord that connects my work is the visual analysis of the onslaught of female homogeneous images and how technology shapes the vision and ideals of what is desirable. My creative practice moves between art and design, teaming with industry clients, creating installations, products and illustrations for Giles Peterson, Boiler Room, Havana Club and British Council, to working with a diverse range of schools using art workshops as an expressive healing tool. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Josephine. Unmute yourself. Great.
Yes. Before I start rattling on, I'll mute myself. Thank you very much for having me. Very nice to see so many nice faces here. I'm really quite inspired by what I've heard so far. So I will share my screen and hopefully technology will like me. Let's see. Can everyone see that? Okay, great, perfect, thank you. So yes, I'm Josephine Ada Chinonye Chime. That's why there's Jack at the top of my face saying hello. So back to all of you. I only actually discovered, I think it was when I was in my teens, that my surname is actually Chime instead of Chime, and I was really shocked. I was thinking to myself, why is it that my mum told me that my name is Chime instead of Chime? And it was because she wanted me to assimilate with white culture and not to stand out. And I found that quite perplexing, but that was her way of getting through and trying not to ruffle any feathers, because obviously it was extremely hard for immigrants coming from Nigeria. So a lot of the seeking and trying to understand what my identity is really does permeate my approach to my work. It doesn't necessarily show so obviously, but it always informs me to try and figure out, what does it mean to be Black? What does it mean to be Nigerian? What does it mean to be a woman? So the next few slides you're going to be seeing is just different facets of my personality and my art and design practice. A cute little overview, and yeah, let's go.
Josephine, I just wanted to say there's a bit of audio. There's a noise like something's rubbing or tapping on the table or something. I don't know if there's a bit of audio
happening now.
It's something at your end.
Oh, hold on a second.
Maybe it's a necklace banging on.
It might be the necklace. There's always funny techie stuff going on. Okay, so can you hear anything? Is it gone?
I think that might be better.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I like to kind of just go into all different types of design and art mediums, everything from set design to doing murals, making objects and illustration. I get inspired by different collaborations and people, and I always feel like it's so much more enjoyable to kind of push your creative boundaries and find out things that you can kind of work on. And also, I think I have this itch to always just be in different circles. Yeah, so that's why I like to do lots of different things. One of the things that I did for nearly 10 years is make Giles Peterson's Worldwide Awards. I designed it and I actually made every single art creation, art award creation. Some of them were so easy and others were so troubling and really exhausting, but I was so happy to be able to meet all these different people in and around London that could help me, all these weird, funny factories in no man's land. And it really made me push my capabilities in making things. So I did lots of different ideas, and then I settled in doing the award that's shaped as a record, because I thought it made complete sense. It's the Worldwide Awards, and most of the people who work with Giles or win awards at the award show is really obsessed with vinyl. So these are the different up close details of the awards. They were always the same design, but just with different materials. And different fabrication, because I always thought it was just a lot more inspiring to keep on just doing something different each year. And this is a workshop I did called Beyond the Face. I did it with young teenagers who were really super shy, and then over the course of the workshops, they started to come out of their shell, and it really just made me think that art is such a powerful tool, and it's basically like therapy. So this is a beginning of what I feel is very much like therapy for me. It's drawing my face and drawing people who are close to me. This is my sister's face, and really accepting all the things that make you who you are, such as all your spots and your blemishes. And this is an up close picture of the obsession of detail and highlighting blemishes, spots, lumps and bumps, texture. I'm so obsessed with texture of the skin because it's basically patterns and your life story on your skin. So life story on your skin. Another thing that I'm really, really quite fascinated by is people building their bodies, building their face, changing themselves, and obscuring and clearing their skin, whether it's through surgery or through technology, because it's kind of polar opposite to what I really love, which is highlighting the actual individualities and all the different patterns of the skin, and amplifying it. So one of the things that I also keep on delving into is different ideas of beauty, different ideas of what is acceptable in society on the female body. And this really does tie into accentuating the patterns and the cut marks and the stretch marks in a kind of different way. I find it really challenges norms. And this is my self-investigation with my body using scarification as an inspiration, which I did for a solo show called Texture to Touch. So as you can, right, okay. My screen is being funny. So yeah, so this is my ode to my celebration of unconventional, against the grain women who love themselves in all their shapes and forms. And I wanted to really put that to the forefront and hyper visualize their their stretch marks and the spots on their body to turn it into patterns. And I did an installation with All Walks, which was created by Ruby Savage and Lauren Platt. And they invited me to do an interactive installation with my big women called The Bodacious Bodies at the National Portrait Gallery. So this is what I showed at the Beyond Ruin exhibition. And I really feel like it exemplified everything that I feel is really important, which is loving yourself and respecting nature. And I wanted to turn a woman into a bark, a tree bark, and really just exaggerate and give credence to the fact that all these tree barks are so different, and it's something that definitely should be talked about, like why do we hide our differences, and giving respect to how nature looks after us as well. So I was also thinking to myself, okay, so if I'm looking at other women, what do I feel about myself? Because art is a therapy to me and for many people, and I feel like it helps me try to accept my body and the vessel that I'm in. So I'm using my body more to look at it and see, okay, what do I like and what don't I like, and figure out what's informed me of my ideas of accepting myself. This is called Rituals, and it's about about how I make myself ready for the world, so that people won't think that I'm ugly, for want of a better description. So getting myself ready and beautifying myself. So the last couple of pictures was from my show Texture to Touch, and that was the whole show was about looking at my body and seeing how I can use technology to change it, but to change it not for what society thinks is sexy and attractive, but what really kind of transgresses the ideas of alluring and the mainstream idea of beauty. So this is a part of a series, and again I use gold because gold is precious, and gold is seen as something that is unattainable and special. So I use gold to again bring to the forefront all the different spots and marks on my skin. And this is always going to be something that I'm going to go to, because it's always quite challenging for me to accept myself and how my skin is, especially how hairy my face is. So hair is always kind of seen in my illustrations and my drawings and my photo collage. Yeah, this is a recent installation I did called Flesh Market. It was for a Five Hides show, group show, late last year. And its main concept was the idea of everyone has a sexual market value, and what does that mean, and how do we engage with it, and also who created it. Like, why is there an idea that everyone has a price or a rating on whether they are sexually viable or yeah, again, sexually desirable. Desirability comes up a lot in my artwork. Just give it a moment. It's singing. And this is an up close, another shot of flesh market. So the black forms were totem poles, and the totem pole symbolized my body and all its different lumps and bumps, and the bottom part of the totem pole is my big feet, because I have massive feet and I can never find the right size shoes. And that's something that I've constantly found challenging to accept. And above the big part at the bottom symbolizes my big massive belly, and the other parts at the top, the spiky parts, is the hairs on my chin. And hanging from the copper wire is a depiction of my flesh, and how sometimes I feel like I am a meat on a meat rack, and up for sale, but no one is wanting. That's not something that I'm like too upset about though. This is Conundrum, and again, the hairs on my face. It's a very big thing, hairs and women being allowed to have hair on their body. There is a movement that I have been seeing in social media and over a few years of people, like people used to be saying bra free, and now people are saying bun shaving themselves. And I think that's quite encouraging and inspiring, because why do we have to be hairless on our armpits and on our legs? What's the meaning of that? What's the point of it really? So I always revisit putting hair everywhere. And yeah, sorry, I was just looking at the time thinking, have I been? Okay, and this is the last, this is the recent artwork that I've done called by Divine Design, and that's showing online for Uncube Gallery, and it's a series of photo collages, again showing my face in all its glory, using Photoshop and other programs, technology programs, to push the limits of what beauty is, instead of making the nose thin, making it bigger. And I feel like this is something that should be talked about more, using Photoshop and technology to mold and manipulate people's ideas of what perfection is. So that's that.
That's great. Thank you so much, Josephine. That's really fascinating. Yeah, thank you. Really exciting to see the kind of new things that you're working on.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we'll share a link to that if we can afterwards. Love to see that new exhibition.
Okay, thank you.
So we're on to our last speaker. Last but not least, we've got Ruby Wolfe. Ruby is a self-taught fine artist based in West Sussex, and she's also an internationally requested tattoo artist. Primarily concerned with transformation in biological, psychological, and spiritual realms, Ruby explores themes of death and decay, identity, and the dark feminine to create figures in symbiosis with plant life and powerful chimeric women. Ruby uses folklore, mythology, plant symbolism, and anthropomorphism as an analogy for spiritual initiation, as well as a visual representation of Earth's ecosystems, engaging the viewer in visual fables about women's return to self, ancestral rites, and the inseparable thread between people and nature, Ruby's work gives us a glimpse into a world where trees have voices, women are numinous, and death is only a door. Over to you then, Ruby.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ruby. I am a mixed race female that uses, sorry, that is my dog, she, they pronouns. I have dark curly hair and I'm wearing a black t-shirt. Behind me you can see various plants and paintings. Yeah, so I kind of found myself, I don't know, feeling like a little out of my depth with this, to be honest. I never really considered myself to be, I don't know, a climate kind of, you know, conservation artist or anything like that. But I have two pieces of work in the exhibition at the moment. The first one being a piece called Spoils. I don't know if you are able to share that at the same time that I'm talking. Yeah. Lydia, is that possible?
I'll do that now, 2 seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's up now and people should be able to see that.
Thank you. So this was a piece that I had originally intended to be in watercolor, and then I was going to submit it for the summer exhibition, kind of ran out of time. So this is a digital piece now. But I created this piece at a time where I felt that I had a lot taken from me by white men who used my experiences to kind of dupe others into believing that they were committed to justice without actually giving anything back to my communities, and to use their proximity to me as a brown woman to gain access to our spaces and our cultures with impunity. I'd kind of, you know, lost count of the amount of times that I had been asked for my opinions, only to find them paraphrased without credit, that I myself was sort of fetishized, and had sort of been asked to use my experiences and my perspectives to fight their battles. But when it sort of came around to criticizing them for these actions, you know, I was told that I had a chip on my shoulder, or that I didn't know what I was talking about, or that I made everything about race. And this kind of sort of made me feel like I was being shut down for the very things that had previously been considered a credit, and repeatedly told that I was hard to love unless I was compliant and complicit. At times it felt like whiteness likes to reap the flowers of the Black experience without doing the work of understanding the trauma of what it took to get there. This sort of in turn kind of got me thinking about how much whiteness took from Black and Indigenous lands through colonization, how much stolen wealth was then used to buy dominance on a global scale, and that these companies and systems put in place by white men have contributed to climate change. Which in turn, you know, it's Black and brown women that bear the brunt of this, with little to no socioeconomic power. These women suffer poverty and homelessness at a greater extent, as well as having to take care of their children and their communities by themselves while dealing with spikes in gender-based violence. And it's just sort of, if I sort of like to kind of explain what I've drawn a bit here, it's basically, you know, the body of a brown female surrounded by small, pale, faceless men who are mining her for parts. And this kind of came from the idea that, you know, of standing on the shoulders of giants. It was only through the taking from Black and Indigenous communities that Europe, especially, kind of won its dominance of the global scale. So we have here, you know, the element of piracy, and how, you know, there's one man here who seems almost exhausted by this amount of work that he's put in to taking from this woman. and more specifically, you know, mining from the heads and hearts of these women, who are themselves lush with life. You know, we literally came as a species from the wombs of Black women. So yeah, this was sort of my ideas anyway, sort of going around when creating this piece. I also worked on a window display for Onca Gallery for this exhibition, which I believe Lydia's also got some pictures of. Which I can't see.
Sorry, just 2 seconds. I'll just get those up.
No worries. But yeah, basically I use anthropomorphism quite a lot within my work, largely as a way to show that not only that we are also animals, but that we are connected to nature. So this piece, this was the original design that I sort of did as like a rough kind of idea, where I've used specifically a tiger, because not only because they are endangered, but because when it comes to endangered species, tigers are more likely to elicit sort of an emotional reaction. I kind of purposely didn't want to use something like, you know, like a pangolin or a green sea turtle or something like that. And it's something that I kind of found weird, that we are more likely to feel sorry for animals and do something about these situations if we find them beautiful. I think that when people see an image of a tiger bound, it's more likely to stir up empathy, especially if we make that connection between the tiger and the human. So in my mind here, I see sort of a spirit of a bamboo forest, which many species of bamboo are also endangered. And this spirit is under conquest. So I like to think a lot about ideas of old gods within my work, and the types of creatures that would have roamed the earth before humanity got here. And I like to, you know, imagine sort of the old gods of the forest dying out in the wake of the jaws of colonization and capitalism. And this idea that humans largely seem to have, where we equate progress with moving away from nature or with dominion over nature. But being part of nature, you know, we harm ourselves in the same ways that we harm her. So all of these things that we consider to be marks of progress, you know, things like burning fossil fuels for energy and things like that, we tend to run before we can walk. And it's not until years later that we realize that these things are harming everything, by which time, you know, it could be too late, essentially. Yeah, I feel like I've kind of spoken a little bit too quickly about this. Yeah, so this is the window display. So it's slightly different from the original design, but I had quite a lot of fun. This is the first thing of its type that I've ever actually done. It was quite a learning curve, having to paint on glass and dealing with the amount of slippage that comes with using acrylic on glass, and a few times where I kind of freaked out a little bit as I painted a few strokes and it completely came away from the window. But I love to use, you know, images of women kind of being overgrown and taken over with nature, to kind of show that thread between us and nature. And arrows as well, I used as a kind of a symbol of persecution, and of the kinds of things that women have to experience on the daily, you know, kind of like a judgment, essentially. These arrows are the judgments that we face every day. Yeah. this is the window from the outside, so obviously it looks quite different because it's all layered up on the inside. Oh yeah, and another picture there. So yeah, sorry, I've done this really quickly. I don't really know if I have much more to say on these pieces.
That's absolutely fine, Ruby.
Yeah, perfect.
Pretty much the 10 minutes, and yeah, that was great. That was really
okay, great.
Thank you. I'll wait, I've stopped screen sharing already, haven't I?
Thank you. Yes, again, someone, Harpreet, said in the chat that was very moving. Thank you. Very intense subject matter. We've got about 10 minutes left till the official end of tonight's event, and so we thought there might be time for a few questions. There's only about 20 something of us in here at the moment, so I think it's probably a sort of small and friendly enough group that people could, if they wanted to, ask questions directly by putting their mic and camera on. Or you could post questions into the chat. We've got a few questions up our sleeves, if none are forthcoming, for the panelists. Just wanted to thank all of the artists and panelists so much for your amazing contributions tonight. It's been really enriching. I found it really, really enriching and fascinating to hear you all speaking about your work together. And it's the only time that we've been able to come together for this exhibition. It's a really difficult time to be making work and trying to share it. So it feels really like an important closure to this project. And I hope that you've all kind of enjoyed seeing each other, meeting each other virtually, as Lydia and I have enjoyed meeting you. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, so how should we do this? I mean, I can wait a few seconds if any questions come up from any of the audience. Would any of you like to sort of raise a hand with a question? If not,
hello.
Who's that? Hi,
it's Hannah.
Hannah, hi Hannah.
Hello. I'm a bit shy, sorry. I'm not used to Zoom. Thank you so much, all of the artists. It's really, really fascinating. Oh, sorry, a bit nervous. I suppose I was interested in the sort of materials aspect of making work with everyone, really, and how you felt that sort of related to the themes of sort of consumption and kind of, I don't know, our responsibilities as artists in using materials. I'm just sort of interested in that and how artists are approaching that, and I can sort of see it in the work, but I didn't think that was sort of foreground, so I just wanted to ask the artists how they approached materials. And yeah, sorry, that's about clear as mud. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a good question. Sorry, I'll just
that sounds very clear to me.
I don't know.
It's a good question. It sounds very clear.
Did you want to address it, Josephine?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of moving my studio temporarily for building work next door to my other studio, and in that process I've been clearing quite a few things out, giving things away, and also coming up to the realization that there is just too much in my studio that is not necessary, because I like to hold on to different materials thinking I might actually need them, and then I realized that I don't actually use them until maybe like 18 months or 2 years, and when I do chuck them away, I think to myself, oh, I need that particular thing. Oh shoot, I chucked it away or gave it away because I wanted to do a Mary Kondo and declutter.
Yeah.
But one of the things I have started doing more is using newspaper, and I felt to myself, oh, I'm not using one of these fancy, special looking, high priced materials for my work. And I felt like I was copping out somehow, but I just needed to use something that was cheaper to acquire and just accessible, and now I'm kind of just happy that I've used basically doing paper mache, but changing the look of it so it doesn't look like paper mache, because I feel that when if I do come to like give it or give away or dispose of it, I can recycle it. So I'd like to kind of like explore that more using recyclable materials. And some of the things that does inform my installations is objects that I see just lying about in my warehouse, and also outside of my studio bins, and think, how can I use that? So I do think I have to be mindful with what materials I use, because I don't want to keep on like contributing to the landfill, really.
Thanks, thank you.
Any more questions?
Sorry, Perth, I just want to give Hannah a little plug, because Hannah is an amazing artist themselves, and has actually exhibited in previous Lost Species Day exhibitions at Onca. So,
thank you.
Using a repurposed door.
Yeah, but I mean, you could have been talking about me, Josephine, with it. Yeah, it's something we seem to, have that same, like, I'll just keep it for about 5 years. And but no, it was you talking about materials that kind of made me think of that, really. So thank you for responding to my very garbled question. Thank you.
Very pertinent question.
Sorry, I'll stop being awkward. And
do any of the panelists want to talk about anything in particular in response to each other's work?
I do, but I don't want to hog anyone. I think so. What's your Mother Eagle? Just put a hand up there. Katie, hi. Yeah, I'll leave you to say something.
Hi, Josephine. No, please do go ahead. You're not hogging at all. But I was also going to just throw out to the panel, anyone in general, if any of the artists had any ideas or plans or inspiration work responding to 2020, responding to the global reckoning of 2020 and living through last year and into this year, and if it's changed any of the ways that they work or inspiring any new work. I'm interested to hear from anyone.
Well, I've been doing more online workshops. Yeah, and the online workshops that I do is called Beyond the Face. I showed a couple of slideshows of the examples, the fruits of the young girls' work when they did Beyond the Face. And it's basically celebrating the different facets of your personality through making a mask. And doing those workshops, I had to do them online because I couldn't do them in real life. I've been able to connect with people from all around the world and find out what they love about themselves, what's their superpower, and the things that they're working on. And I've consciously tried to think, okay, so what other workshop can I create that helps people to meaningfully connect with others and themselves? And I never really thought about that much, because I didn't do as many workshops. So the chaos that happened last year and that kind of is spilling over to this year has encouraged me to think about how can I create workshops that can help people connect with themselves and other people. And it's still a work in progress. I'm still doing it now and trying to make it better. Is anyone else doing anything?
Yeah. Deru?
Yeah. Hi. I hope that I answer some of that question and also reflect to what has happening into 2020, and also the material questions. Yes, about the 2020, it really is a hard time for everyone, and losing job and stuff like that. But at the same time, you're giving birth to another idea, another way of seeing things. Like in my case, I don't use you know, as you can see, my work are monochromatic, ink on paper, which I don't have enough space and I don't have enough to store them. Therefore, I work on a large piece of paper and I don't frame them, only if it needed to be shown. So that actually worked out well. I don't need too much of space. But at the same time, now that many galleries are closing down and quite limited for art enthusiasts or the artists to exhibit the works. And I like to take this advantage of these digital platform, which I think most artists are doing that now. And it's actually like this a platform that this opportunity that I am included is actually good for me to share and be connected with the other artists. When I'm sure now we are doing that, and it gives us the kind of rather than keep that work, the production that we produce in the studio locked, not being seen. With this kind of digital platform, it gave me, like, now I'm doing my drawing process and sharing my drawing process on YouTube, and just starting, and because of numbers of questions from my my Instagram followers, I try to share, instead of showing the finishing product, I like to share the drawing process, the process of my works, which is kind of, you know, like I have to direct a response from the audience. That's what I'm doing now with this what happening with the 2020 lockdown, and I'm working on digital works at the same time, showing the process, but at the same try to be much more, you know, productive and sharing at the same time, not just random works, but what I do is I work on one large piece of work, but I show in one puzzle, piece by piece, the process and the end of it, that one piece, which I think is good for, rather than, because if I do one piece for one video, it's going to take months to publish that. I rather do one piece bit by bit, and also good work for me, because when I started with a big large piece before, without the one small piece, I was overwhelmed by the size of the empty blank paper. So I kind of confused where to start with. But now that I experimenting with these small pieces bit by bit, and actually give me the focus to carry on like a puzzle on the recording video and share on YouTube. Yeah, but the Onco really helped me a lot. Although the opportunity given me is, you know, like, per se, do have this kind of, I have to say that I do have this kind of word that really advised me, and it really, I feel that I discover my true potential, really, the thing that Word is saying with this project that I'm doing with the environmental artists, and to do with what's happening now. Yeah, that's my work, really. The narrative of my work is based on that, and also find someone is not easy. Onco is not only showing my work, but also at the same time guiding me in a way, indirectly, without them knowing it. But the vocabulary they're using, beyond ruin and stuff like that, it does really reflect my works, give me the potential of how to narrate my works and to execute it. Yeah, I hope that answered the questions.
It's so lovely to be in an ongoing dialogue with you, Deru, and hopefully all of you. I'm aware that it's after 7:30, so probably it would be polite to finish on time, but we haven't. I just wondered if Felipe, Ruby, or Katie wanted any sort of to say anything to close before we actually finish the event.
I was actually wondering, Felipe, do you still keep in touch with the women that you photographed?
Absolutely.
Do you know what's going on with them at the moment?
Absolutely. I'm actually working on another piece on the Amazon, and yes, I see these women quite often.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going tomorrow to see some of them deep in the jungle. So I'll go, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days in a boat.
Are they still sort of much in the same position as when you first met them?
The resistance continues. The country has not changed its focus on trying to find other alternatives of income. So the expansion of the oil frontier continues. They continue to be affected, some by oil spills, some are constantly threatened, some are trying to, are constantly tried, are targeted, or they want to be, people want to bribe them in order for them to really accept, the oil frontier to expand. So it's not going away anytime soon. And really, what I felt in 2013 is still the case. Very much, the women are at the heart of the resistance of the Amazon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that participated, and I've found this a really fascinating and inspirational conversation, and I've loved hearing how all our different visions have intersected and discovered the ways that they've intersected beyond, what I already knew. So just thank you everybody for your time and your participation.
Hello, I just wanted to ask quickly, and well done everyone again. It was a really interesting and eye-opening event. Just wanted to ask where the recording will it be made available later, or?
Yeah, it will. It'll be shared on our website and on our social media platforms.
Cool. Well done everyone.
I just wanted to say as well, there's lots of expressions of gratitude and appreciation for all of the artists' work and everything you've shared this evening that people are posting in the chat. So I just want to make sure that people didn't miss that.
Okay, well, to close, I think it seems fitting to end, to be honest, it seems fitting to end with the women, the Indigenous women of Ecuador. So yeah, probably we'll end there, but let's keep in touch. And Josephine, you've shared a link to your exhibition in the chat, and we'll be keeping in touch with all of you wonderful artists and friends of Onca. Deep gratitude from Lydia and me to Katie, Ruby, Josephine, Deru and Felipe, and to everyone who's come along and supported us tonight. And watch this space, because there'll be lots more making links between Amazonian activists. Obviously, I'm just going to mention Denilson's work as well. Denilson's based in Brazil, very much kind of campaigning for Indigenous rights there. So that's their more kind of work and artist-led strands that we'll be pulling out in 2021. So yeah, let's keep in touch. Lovely to meet you. So much. Yeah, thank you for giving us your time tonight.
Thank you so much for creating space in the show. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speak soon.
Thank you very much.
Stop recording.